Hello, everybody. Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report. It's Thursday's edition, and we are broadcasting from chilly Irvine, California. Happy to have you with us today, and I want to welcome back one of my regular guests, Jeffrey Dunetz from the great state of New York, Long Island to be specific. Jeffrey, welcome back to the show.
Great to be here, Mark. And it's freezing in New York.
Freezing New York, chilly on California. We got the coast covered and everything in between. Listen, Jeffrey, as is usually the case on Thursdays, boy, there's a lot of news hitting the tape. I want to start off on the political side of it, first of all, because you're seeing a lot of news stories now about how Nikki Haley is making up ground. She just got a massive cash infusion from the Koch brothers, who, by the way, sat out the 2016 and the 2020 elections generally because they weren't Trump fans. The question in a lot of people's mind is this bounce real? Because in almost every poll that I've seen from Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina, Donald Trump is up a minimum of 30 points in these polls. And I'm hearing stories, okay, DeSantis is falling, but I've been around long enough to be skeptical of the polling. But how are you seeing this right now, Jeffrey? Because it does look like outside of Chris Christie in New Hampshire, we've really consolidated this into a three-person race, if not a one-person race.
It's really a one-person race with a fight for number two. As far as Christie goes, it's where the food is better. But I think the Haley surge is real. But on the other hand, DeSantis is doing a traditional Iowa campaign. He's hitting every single county, which in Iowa is important. I don't think that Haley is doing that. So Haley is a little up than DeSantis, but I think DeSantis is going to come up and go through it because, Iowa is a little weird. They take it personally. And I think that they'll be happier with DeSantis, who is actually trying to meet everybody personally.
You're probably right about that. I mean, look, Ron DeSantis is an exceptionally good governor in Florida. So it's somewhat of a strange, a mystery to me why he has sort of languished at the poll levels where he is, and he hasn't really increased his popularity. He's been hanging in there generally 12 to 15%. And he got a big endorsement in Iowa, one of the main benefactors. And Nikki Haley gets this Koch brothers money. And folks, listen, this is big stuff because her campaign needed an influx just like this. And now that she's able to garner arguably one of the wealthiest donors in the Republican circles, Jeffrey, that's going to go a long way to helping her on the media dollars. I really see this race now, again, funny line about Christie, obviously wherever the food goes. But the fact is, in Iowa, DeSantis is visiting. He's running, as you said, traditional, going to every Iowa county. And people like to touch and feel you, not just once, but 2 or 3 times in Iowa. Same thing for New Hampshire. So I've got to believe, I do believe this Nikki Haley surge is real, but the question is, and I haven't seen it in politics going back a long way, with Trump having such a commanding lead, I don't know. I mean, look, I give them all credit. Look, Haley putting herself out there, DeSantis putting himself out there. I know you're no fan of his, but even Christie putting him out there, you got to give them some credit. They went up against an 800-pound gorilla. Not one vote's been cast yet. So I always get a little concerned when the media tries to tell us how to vote, whether it's in just Republican circles or if it's in a general election. So I'm excited about our primaries coming up and the caucuses in Iowa. And, here's another interesting piece, Jeffrey. I don't know if you caught the news, but an appeals court judge has reinstated the gag order on Trump. So now I'm sitting here, how in the heck are you going to run a campaign when you got a gag order on you? Because, these politicians, I mean, they say a lot of crazy stuff.
Well, the Trump fans are going to be upset about the gag order. I don't think he has to campaign. It's like he's 50 something points and he hasn't really campaigned. I don't think he has to. But the thing is that if he ends up losing a couple of these cases, I think his favorability would start going down.
Well,
One
that's
or
what
two won't happen.
that's what a lot of the pundits are saying. Hey, if Trump does this, if Trump does that, again, we're not editorializing here. We're just sort of stating the facts.
Right.
Every time one of these cases got lots of publicity, looked like Trump was going down, looked like something was going to happen, Trump gained in the polls. I mean, Jeffrey, the media and the Democratic Party has done something that I don't think anyone thought possible. They've actually created a sympathetic figure of Donald Trump. It's amazing what you see, but average Americans, they can relate to it. They're saying, you know what? I've been picked on before. I've had that, boss I didn't like. I've had people telling me what to do. And people rally around an underdog. It's just in the American psyche to do that. And when people see a judge reinstating a gag order on a former president, major political party, likely candidate, I mean, people react to that stuff. Yeah. And of course, your point is Trump doesn't have to say anything. He's so far ahead. You could be right about that.
I think the media wants Trump like in the irons, in prison, with your hands and neck to the wall. I mean, the media doesn't like him. Face it. No. The Democrats want him dead or in jail, and the media wants him in jail. And this from the time he was elected, the first time.
I'll give you a prediction, Jeffrey. If by some crazy circumstance prior to the election, if Donald Trump literally had to go to prison jail for a period of time, or he violates a gag order and the judge throws him in the brink, can you imagine the publicity of having a camera with Trump behind bars? Honest to God, I think his popularity would soar. And everything they've tried to throw at this guy, from indictments to the media, none of it works. I mean, that either tells me that the American psyche, they are firmly etched, where Trump's, their guy. And you know what I'm hearing, Jeffrey? I've been traveling the country a lot. And it's the old Ronald Reagan question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? In this case, 3 with Biden. Yeah. And people are saying, no, I'm not. Now, gas prices have come down a little bit in the last month, but here's the problem. And I said this on Tuesday's show. When you had 9% inflation and that basket of goods cost you $100, now it's 109. If you have 4 or 5% inflation on top of that, now it's costing 114. And what most Americans are saying is, Jesus, these prices are high. They're not going down. They're continuing to go up. And I got news for you. Interest rates have ticked down a little bit, Jeffrey, over the past 30 days. Wall Street's rallied. The market's been on a tear. The 10-year note's gone from 5% down to 4.25%. I mean, those are significant changes. But the inflation that the American people are feeling, it's still up there. So I don't know. I think this race is still Donald Trump's. I mean, Nikki Haley is putting a great effort there. DeSantis is trying. Hell, DeSantis is on Hannity's show tonight, and he's debating Gavin Newsom. I mean, right. What do you make of this one? I mean, is this two future stars? I mean, obviously Newsom's. Here's a little secret. And this isn't a secret. You and I know this. The Democrats would love to have Newsom as their candidate instead of Biden, but as long as Biden, who yesterday I think he called Trump a congressman. I mean, it's just. This guy is not fit for prime time. You know it. I know it. Most of the American people know it. And when the esteemed vice president has to defend his age of 81, Houston, we have a problem here. Your
And when
thoughts?
you have to call the vice president esteemed, this one, you know you have a problem. But as far as the debate tonight, I think Family Feud is on. I mean, I have no desire to watch that. It's
Well,
two people from different parties, and I'm not a big fan of Newsome. And whatever happens, I'm still not going to be a big fan of Newsome.
yeah. Now, you know, again, a lot of Democrats wish he was the nominee and not Joe Biden, but they're not going to get their wish because as long as Biden is entrenched in the White House and his advisors are saying, you know, we're not worried about the polls, he's going nowhere, then a race that 72% of America does not want to see, it looks like it inevitably could happen. But in all seriousness aside, did Biden actually call Trump a congressman?
Congressman. Yep. Well, when you think about it, if the Biden the stuff that they're investigating, if any of it comes out, you can have a debate where both of them are wearing leg irons.
There is some truth to that. Yeah, this stuff with him in China, I'm glad you brought that up, and I want to talk about it. Got about a minute and a half before break. But this stuff on these money transfers, I mean, this has gone well beyond just Hunter Biden at this point. Jeffrey, based on everything I'm seeing, and again, I'm not privy to all the facts. We catch the news just like everybody else does. I think there is a likelihood that he is going to be impeached. Now, the chance of conviction is zero while the Democrats control the Senate, but it's not going to shock me if this thing escalates to the next level simply based upon the overwhelming mountain of evidence that seems to be coming out.
I really hope they don't, because before they did Trump twice, the last time was Andrew Johnson. Okay, impeachment shouldn't be a regular thing.
No,
I mean, granted, he's a crook, okay, but I don't know if it's at impeachment level. I know if you or I did what he did, we'd be in jail.
There's no question about it. So I just think that the political winds are they're blowing in that direction, and it is not going to shock me if this thing escalates. Look, the fact of the matter is, Representative Comer's committee, they are the old saying, follow the money, and they followed the money, but the Democrats are not going to let Joe sink on this one. It's just not going to happen. Folks, we'll be back in a minute. Jeffrey, I want to talk, when we come back from the other side of the break, I want to talk Israel and what the U.S. is doing to pressure. We'll be back in a minute.
The world is about to shift. Banks are going cashless globally with the emergence of central bank digital currency, which will bring with it programmable money and the ability to turn on or off your purchasing power based on your digital social profile. It's like the equivalent of spyware in your bank account. You need to get out of the system with the world's safest and most private assets, silver and gold. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD, 720-605-3900.
We are here to defend democracy for the people.
So, Jeffrey, the news of the day, and it seems like the news of every day, we're in day 7 now of a ceasefire. And it does appear to me, I asked the question, is the political pressure from the United States forcing Israel into this situation? And I firmly believe the answer is yes. I mean, hostages are being released on a daily basis. That's a great thing. No one's against that. But Jeffrey, there's going to come a point pretty soon where there will not be additional hostages to come out. What's going to happen once we hit to that point?
Well, that's Hamas's, and excuse the term, trump card. Okay, as long as they have hostages, they control the discussion. However, the Israeli War Cabinet has to agree to a longer. They approved 7 days. We're about to go to the 8th day. They didn't approve it yet. So, and the thought is that the people of Israel, if they don't go back to fighting the war, Netanyahu is going to be skinned alive. So
Yeah.
it's half and half.
Yeah, I don't see any chance at all, Jeffrey, that they're going to extend this ceasefire beyond a handful of days here. I mean, the U.S. has put pressure on them to try to gain release of these hostages. That report came out today. They thought 40 some odd hostages Hamas doesn't control. They don't even know where they are. So,
right.
And when it comes down to where there's just
mother and twin kids that they don't know where they are.
Right. So my feeling is this. I mean, when you see things like we're seeing, yes, it's great that this is happening. And, Israel is getting some pressure, not only from the U.S., but from other countries in the region. However, Israel firmly is on solid ground to continue their military exercises. And I agree with you. Even if Netanyahu wanted to pause, it's impossible. He's got that coalition government, and the military has their plans in place. The Israeli people they reached the boiling point. They said, enough is enough. We're not going to go through this anymore. Bear in mind, people tend to forget 1,200 Israeli citizens were murdered. And that seems to be a lost equation nowadays. So again,
how they were murdered. They were burned to death. They were decapitated. Some pregnant women, they had babies pulled out of their stomach and then kill the baby, killed them. I mean, it's disgusting.
Yeah, it really is. And it's even more equally as disturbing, Jeffrey. And this happens right in your backyard there. The Christmas tree lighting in Rockefeller Center. And you see hundreds of these pro-Palestinian protesters. They're literally getting into clashes with police, trying to break down barriers, disrupt the tree. I mean, Jeffrey, again, their position is, well, Israel's committing war crime doing this. Israel's defending itself. And in war, there are casualties. And Israel has gone out of its way, in my opinion, to try to prevent those casualties. So this river to the sea crap that's going on, and the yelling and these stupid idiots talking, free Palestine, this. Jeffrey, what do you make of this? What are average New Yorkers saying about this?
From river to sea, that land belongs to me. But anyway, there are two problems with what they're doing. Number one, they're not going against Israel. They're attacking Jews.
Yes.
They're carrying Nazi swastikas. I have friends who have been I can't walk well, but they've been in protests in calm peace. The one in D.C., that was a calm protest. And when they left, they were getting beaten up.
Yeah, it's disgusting, the stuff that we're seeing. And, it's a small group of leftist radicals that are doing this stuff. They're pro-Palestine. They're anti-Israel. I mean, it seems to... It's just the world's upside down right now. I mean, this stuff shouldn't be happening, but it is happening. And, one thing I think is festering at Jeffrey, when I see stories about Biden, who had a meeting with Muslim leaders and privately, he's out there. We actually praise him for his initial commentary, what he was saying about this, Israel's right to defend itself, and there's going to be casualties in war. And I mean, he was looking and talking the tough part, but then he gets in a meeting with Muslim leaders and he apologizes for his rhetoric that he was using. I think that was wrong. He should have doubled down on the rhetoric, because, again, the fact is, had October 7th not happened, this would not be happening. So I think Biden completely tries to have a double standard here. And I at the end of the day, it simply is not going to pan out.
He's getting the pressure from his party, though.
Yes.
It wasn't just the squad that had problems with his support of Israel. And people don't realize, they're talking about the big numbers of Hamas, or actually Palestinian people who have been killed. And I think anyone killed is bad. But Hamas is using them as human shields. They're putting them in the front, unarmed.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a lot of what they're doing, and a lot of
there's no question about that. So, I mean, again, when we're on the show next week, when I come on back next Tuesday, there will be fighting, I predict, again. I think the Israelis will, they're not going to bend to this pressure, Jeffrey. I don't see that happening. And, I've been wrong before, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong on this one. Listen, I want to get to a little bit, I want to ask you a couple economic things, and I want to get on to the story about Henry Kissinger. We talked a little bit about how Americans are feeling, okay, with the problems with inflation. I'll tell you another issue that younger Americans are having right now, Jeffrey, is the fact that they can't buy houses. I mean, interest rates have come down from 8% down to like 7 and 8. But home prices are up 7 months in a row. Sales were so slow, Jeffrey. You have to go all the way back to 2001 for signed contracts for pending closings. And Jeffrey, here's the crazy thing about it. The houses that are coming on the market, those are like the expensive ones, over $750,000. Last I looked, there's not that many Americans buying $750,000 houses and up. But if that's your supply, that's your supply. So when you take these inflation pieces, food, energy, throw in the fact that housing costs keep going up, boy, Biden's got a tough economic ladder he's going to have to deal with here.
Well, yeah, because actually the young, newly married people can't afford the houses. And that was part of his base last time, because they're not going to be able to afford a $750,000 house. And when you look at the inflation numbers, they came down, but they came down from the high numbers he had a year and a half ago. But they're still much higher than they were when he took over.
Yeah,
so
no question about it.
People go try to buy Christmas presents when the toys they buy for the kids are going to be much more expensive.
No question. Hey, the big news that came out yesterday, Jeffrey, an icon in American history, Henry Kissinger, passed away at the age of 100. I mean, Kissinger, there's mixed reviews on him, but generally speaking, he got very favorable reviews for the work he did for 2 U.S. presidents, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford. He was both Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. Kissinger opened up, whether it was Nixon's idea or his, jointly, the two seemed to really play well off of each other. So the relationship with China back, when Nixon was president, it's an accomplishment widely viewed favorably. They had to deal with the Soviet Union back then. There was Middle East peace talks back then. What are we talking about? Russia, China, Middle East? That was when Kissinger was Secretary of State. What are we talking about today? Russia, China, Middle East? The years, the decades change, the problems stay the same. But he is credited with say again,
okay.
Jeffrey?
I'm going to be a little contrary because I can't stand Kissinger, okay, because he caused deaths, okay? When the Yom Kippur War happened and Israel was almost destroyed, okay, if you remember that war, Egypt was taking over. Israel knew the day before, and Kissinger said, if you do that, you'll never get a penny from the United States again. Okay, so they couldn't attack first. They had to let Egypt attack first. Okay, and that caused more Israeli deaths.
Let me tell you. Let me be fair to you here. As I stated earlier, there are those that praise Kissinger. He has his detractors, though. So this is not a one-sided affair.
Absolutely,
no question about it. I mean, there was some involvement. Well, besides that, there was some of the involvement in the Vietnam War, the bombing in Cambodia. It's a mixed picture, but from a diplomatic perspective, representing the United States and opening doors on a global basis, I think it's fair to say that Kissinger, whether you agree or disagree with him, in the pantheon of U.S. secretaries of state, national security advisors, there's Henry Kissinger, there's James A. Baker III, a handful of others, but Kissinger really was a towering figure. And I think, the fact that these accolades and distractions, are coming out, I think is fair game.
You remember when Daniel Patrick Moynihan made that big speech at the UN when they're about to vote on Zionism is racism? Henry Kissinger tried to stop him from making it. Okay. I mean, I look at those things. Yes, he got us involved with China, which at the time was a good thing. He actually made some headway with Russia, which, at that time, they were the second most powerful in the world. So, yeah, there were good things. But what I'm familiar with is things that he caused that caused more deaths. And I think, that's where, and James Baker, forget it. But I think that to me, that brings him down. I happen to think that Mike Pompeo was a great secretary.
Mike Pompeo was an exceptional Secretary of State, and I should have included him in that list. And I'm glad you pointed that out, because he did an exceptional job, both as Secretary of State, head of the CIA. This guy's got a resume unlike nobody else. All right, Jeffrey, we got a minute to go. How do you see things playing out coming into the holidays here? Give me your thoughts on state of affairs in the country, and where do we go from here?
Not much is going to happen the next 3 weeks. Okay. Politicians don't like to do anything leading up to Christmas. China might try to do something, but I don't know if they will, because it'll get America more angry. And they're trying to smooth things out so they can attack when they're ready. So I don't think there's going to be a lot. The only thing that's going to develop more is the Hamas-Israel war.
There's no question about it. Yeah.
There's nothing else that's going to go.
Well, there's no question. I mean, in my view, the efforts of Tony Blinken and the pressure that the Biden administration is putting on Israel, it's had some effect. I think there's going to be some continuing drip on the hostages. I think, I could be wrong about this, but Hamas is likely to increase its demands as the quote, women and children are all freed. It comes down now to Israeli men who are held hostage. They'll free the foreigners probably next. And right now it's basically a 1 for 3, 3 Hamas, 3 Palestinian prisoners for each 1 Israeli. So there's been some degree of success there, but that is going to continue. Folks, we're out of time. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, and we'll be back on Tuesday. Thanks for viewing today.
Banks are supposed to be the safest placeholders for cash in the world, but in 2022 that changed. The Federal Reserve pulled out $2.5 trillion of liquidity out of the banks, and the Fed also changed the requirements so banks don't need to keep any funds on hand. This means banks are starved for liquidity and have now become very dangerous places to hold your assets. Get out of the system with the world's safest and most private assets, silver and gold. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD at 720-605-3900.
Welcome to the Wellness Company. Medicine and technology have helped make positive contributions to health and wellness for years. Today, the Wellness Company is a comprehensive and convenient way to optimize these tools and take control of your health. Through our integrated care model, you'll have the convenience of seeing a world-class healthcare professional from the comfort of your own home or by phone. You can have prescription medicines and wellness products delivered directly to your door. And you can access our growing library of cutting-edge health tips and advice on preventative medicine and wellness. Best of all, at every step of the way on your healthcare journey, You will have naturalistic medicine options along with pharmaceuticals to optimize your health based on your personal needs.
Get unlimited supplements and telehealth visits for only $199 a month at twc.health/AMP. Use promo code AMP888 at checkout.